welcome back to Let's Talk About Labor. Today we're going to be talking about transportation of H-2A workers, specifically inbound and outbound transportation. This podcast is a collaboration between the University of Tennessee and Gap Connections and aims to help farmers connect with other farmers in Tennessee and surrounding states so they can tell their experiences with in general labor, migrant labor, or domestic labor. My name is Margarita Velandia. I'm a professor in the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics. Jane, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry. My name is Jane Chadwell. I'll get the technology figuring out here. And I'm the executive director of Gap Connections, which is a nonprofit based here in Knoxville, Tennessee, that has a large focus on ag labor.
And I'm Amy Roachkis. I'm the Training and Resources Coordinator with Gap Connections.
All right. So today, again, we have our invited speakers, George McDonald's, owner of Catisa Farm, and Bart Gilmer, co-owner of Falcon Ridge Farm. And again, in this episode, we'll continue talking about the H-2A program, specifically transportation. So there are costs associated with covering the cost of bringing the workers from their home country to their farm, and then taking them from their farm back to their country. There are other transportation requirements related to taking them to the bank or to from the living quarters to the work site, but we're not going to talk about those transportation requirements while they are here. We're going to focus today on inbound and outbound transportation. So George and Bart, please, first of all, why don't you introduce quickly, tell us a little bit about your farm, what the type of farm that you guys have, and tell us a little bit about yourselves before we start.
I'm George McDonald from Smith County. We're a small community about 50 miles northeast of Nashville. Farming, the original farm, my great-grandfather started farming in 1927. Today, our operation has grown to, we farm in 6 different counties. We grow corn, soybeans, wheat, milo, strawberries, and watermelons.
Excellent. Bart.
My name's Bart Gilmer, Falcon Ridge Farm. We're in West Tennessee in Hardeman County. We're about 50 miles east of Memphis. We grow small fruits and vegetables, all direct to consumer sale. Our main crops are strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and then all of your garden vegetables that grow in our region. We produce. We've got a 400-member CSA and 10 4 to 5 farmers markets, and that's where we sell all of our produce.
Excellent, Bart. So let's dive into this topic about transportation, specifically inbound and outbound transportation. So I want you guys to talk about all the things you need to consider, specifically related to bringing these workers to your farm and taking them back to their home country. For example, let's talk about things for example, who is responsible for making those transportation arrangements from their country of origin to the farm and back to their country. Let's start with that one, and then we'll talk about the others, the other details.
Okay, I guess it looks like my turn now. In our prior episodes, we had been talking about depending on a labor agency. This is another thing that comes in real good for, because as our workers come from Mexico, they're down lower part of Mexico is where they're from. So they have to get a ride up to the Mexican consul to do the interview. And then from there are buses that's coming our way from there. Our labor agency gets those buses lined up. Also keep in mind though, that when they came up, they usually come up the day before the interview. So you'll have to pay for their hotel room for one night. Then the buses, as they come up, we have to pay for those buses for those folks to get up here. So they have zero expense in getting here to us to go to work. Do you want me to get into going back yet or wait on that one?
Let's wait on that one.
Okay.
And Bart, how about you? I'm assuming it's very similar, but again, you have fewer workers that come to your farm. So anything you want to add there?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty much the same for us. The way that our agency breaks this down, the agency is responsible for getting them. The way they do it is the closest bus station, and so for us, it's Jackson, and so they'll get them that far. Once they get there, it's our responsibility to get them picked up. But the money that we reimburse them when they get here for their travel expenses is a little more on the inbound trip because we do pay for their consulate interview, and that's $205 per worker, and that's something that they don't have to do on the way back. But we pay the in-country transportation, like George talked about, to get them to the consulate. There's a I-94 application fee on hours that we pay is $6. Transportation from the border to the job site, $215. And then our guys, we actually have to give them 3 days subsistence pay, and that's to pay for their meals while they are there at the consulate, and that's $15.88 a day is what we're paying now. And their lodging for one night is $25. And so on the inbound travel cost, because of where they are, like George said, ours are probably from about the same region towards southern Mexico, but our expense runs $600 to $700 per worker to get them here.
I think everybody needs to be very much aware. It's not that you just have they come in and work for you, you pay them while they're here and they'll leave. There's a lot more expenses to the H-2A program than what meets the eye. Bart was given in great detail of the things that some people are not aware of that they'll have to pay to get these workers here. And we're happy to pay that because we need the labor and we get our crops harvested this way. Otherwise, we will not get harvested.
And I'll just to add a little bit to those expenses, I actually did something getting ready for this that I've been wanting to do for a few years. And I went and figured all the additional cost on top of what their hourly rate is, and came up with a number. And so we've got 5 H-2A workers, and they are here anywhere from 39 weeks to 29 weeks. And last year, my total cost outside of paying them their hourly rate was almost $11,000. And that includes the contract fee that I pay AWMA to do what they do, their inbound and outbound travel, the water test, housing repairs and maintenance, utilities, and then in-town transportation, which we're not going to talk about today. But that sounds like a large number, and I was a little sick to my stomach when I saw it. And but what I did was I went back and figured my total man hours. And so last year, between all 5 workers, we had a total of almost 7,300 man hours. And if you divide that cost out, it only added $1.50 per hour to what we were paying them. And so that's a lot easier to stomach and think about that way. And so the longer they're here, the cheaper it gets as far as that expense goes. But I did like I said, I think that's some useful information, and it will vary depending on how many workers you have. It doesn't exactly compound because it costs about the same to bring 3 as it does 1 with some of the fees that you pay. But that'll give you a little idea of the cost outside of just paying them their hourly rate.
And
No,
people
that's really helpful, Bart. Thank you for the impressive math that you pulled together.
one other thing too to keep in mind, I know some people are probably thinking, well, I'll just get them and keep them here for 3 years. That way I don't have to have that additional cost. That doesn't work because you've got to be H-2A free. Mart, how long is it? 60 days or 90 days?
It is 60-day. You can have workers on the farm 10 months out of the year, 2 months, you're not allowed to have any.
And that's one thing they're working on, trying to change the law for on the H-2A program, especially for dairy farmers, because you can't tell a milk cow to take off for 2 months that you're not going to milk her. And it really puts dairy operations in a bad disadvantage.
But they've been trying to do that for years, right? We're not gonna get
It's,
into politics here, but
yeah,
it is how it is.
yeah, that's right.
You have to send them back and they'll have to come back. Um uh, anyway, so now we talk about inbound, and again, thank you, Bart, for that number. I was thinking about this year's adverse effect wage rate, which is $15. So you're talking about like overall, you end up paying like $16 per hour, $16.50 when you take everything into account. Anyway, well, let's talk about the outbound transportation. You guys talk about the agency took care of that, right?
The
Now
outbound,
the outbound. So once they're leaving, once they're about to leave, again, is the agency taking care of that? Um, and then I want you to, I don't know if you have had that experience. I remember I was working closely with another farm where sometimes you had a worker that has to go home earlier because of a specific situation, or they had I don't know if you have had that situation, but if you have it, if you have not, you don't have to talk about it. Let's talk about that outbound transportation. Who makes those arrangements? Who pays for that? What the cost of that?
well, the employer is the one who's going to have to pay for that. So Bart and I will be paying for that. You can, the agency can line up that bus to come pick them up. One thing with our group that's different where Bart's is on the inbound, they deliver them right here at the office, or sometimes they'll go, of course, the workers know where the house is, so they'll have the driver drop them at their house. But on the outbound side, uh, we really think a lot of our guys. They are like family to us. And what we do, and usually some years it's about the same cost as a bus. Some years it may be $100, $150 more, but we buy a plane ticket for those guys to get back to their closest uh, airport to get back. And usually they'll put them within 2 hours of home and they'll have someone come pick them up. But we have to pay for that flight. We also have to pay for their food, give them an allowance on what their food is in the airport. And don't make the fatal mistake of giving one of them $30 to eat at the airport before they leave the airport of cash, because most airports will not take cash. What you have to do is give them a Visa gift card. That Visa gift card is good at any airport in the United States, but when they get to Mexico, the Visa card will not work there. So try to proportion that out so it'll be right for them. We always have a few meals with our guys throughout the season that I may cook. We'll go out somewhere to eat. And usually the week they're about to leave, we'll take off one afternoon to go to Top Golf or do something to have fun before they leave, so that we have more bonding time, eat a meal together, and then going to the airport. We always take them we go back through the Nashville airport. We'll take them down there. We help them get their tickets, their baggage, and everything in, and get them through security. Then 99% of the time, we all giving each other hugs and see you next year, and let them get on a plane and head on back home from there. The beauty of them being at the airport that morning on a 7 or 8 o'clock flight in the morning, before the sun goes down that evening, they're back home with their family.
George, enjoyed hearing all of the things that you do to create that family culture. And one of the things that we see, we have a grievance mechanism with a lot of our growers, and those operations that build the environment, the culture that you have on your operation, are going to have less issues between workers and between workers and employer when you've built that kind of relationship. So that's just awesome to hear, and great advice.
I think we do that because that's who we are. Our operation is much larger than myself. It encompasses all of our families here, and our work families and our blood kin families. But Jane, when you make those people welcome, when you make people feel like they're a part of it, they're appreciated, they're cared for, they get a good pat on your back, a good meal. I always tell people you don't know people until you eat with them. It's like breaking bread. We break bread together. We know each other so much better than if it's only on a work level basis.
A funny story, Bart, and I'll let you know. I got to meet George a couple of years ago, and when you said sharing a meal, I remember riding a tractor with you. We ate together on a gas station, and you gave me ice cream on the tractor. And
And
There
we've
you
been
now
go.
you have wonderful memories of George, you know?
we've been friends since then.
That's
So
right. We have been.
okay, Bart, tell us a little bit about outbound transportation. I know your crew is way smaller, so tell us a little bit about your experience with outbound transportation.
Sure. Similar to George's, most of the time our guys fly home. And so I had not thought about the cash at the airports and never had an issue with my guys saying anything about it. But what we do is we pay them their outbound money a couple of days before they leave. That way we can get them to the bank where they can cash that money and have it to go home. And we do transport them to the airport and see them off. And we've got way we set ours up is we've got 2 different contracts, and so we've got like this year we had 2 guys come in the end of February, and then I've got 3 that are actually supposed to be here anytime today. And so they leave at different times, and so we may have to make multiple trips to the airport. But yeah, I think George pretty well covered it, and I'll second the family atmosphere. That's kind of the way we have always been with everybody, and not just the H-2A workers. If you work here, you know you're part of a family, and uh, uh, like what Jane was talking about. Once you get those guys and have such a mutual appreciation for each other, that we really look forward to seeing them every year, and hate to see them go when they go. And but the type of people that we've had are just really good people. They're Christians, and they are well behaved and appreciative and humble, and just wonderful people to be around.
Great, guys. So we're at the end of our third episode. And again, we thank you both for staying with us through these 3 first episodes. Thank you for taking the time and sharing all your experiences with the H-2A program. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Bye.